Pwned by 1400 is an asymmetrical horror game on Roblox that I had started playing around the time it was first building up. I had played it when JDX was the only killer, and the only survivors were Jacob, Brandon, and Guest 666. So, I've been familiar with this game for quite a long while, and I already was getting to liking it, even when it was in such an early stage. It was already just, kind of gave off a good vibe, and I was excited for what was to come. When I found out that they added the Stalker, that reeled me in way more, because as you know, I am a fan of Cool Killer, and I'm also a fan of the Stalker. Both of those creations by Clone Trooper or Maximum ADHD are ones that have lived in my childhood for long amounts of time, and to see them being brought back into the spotlight is very nice to see. Especially because I think their execution with the Stalker is very well done, and I'm very excited to see the Unit 8 soldier get added into the game as a survivor. That is very awesome stuff. Ever since, I've always looked at the game's concurrent player base, and I've noticed that they sometimes do struggle to get to even just 1,000 players. And, the game has a lot of visits, it has a lot of favorites, but I never really see it get talked about much. And it really only seems to keep a high concurrent player rate, like 1 or 2 days after an update. And it's really making me wonder, regardless of this game having, such a high visit and favorite rate, is the game still underrated? Because again, even though the game has so many visits and favorites, it really still feels like, compared to the other asymmetrical horror games, this is a kind of under-the-radar game. And I just kind of want to talk about the game and, why I feel like this concurrent player rate might be, so low. So to start, there are a few things that I jotted down about Pwned by 1400, because there are a lot of things I like with this game, and I find this game to be very fun. I think it is enjoyable, and there are a lot of things to appreciate in this game. So, first of all, I want to talk about the music design. The music design is fascinating. I love all the songs in the game. There's not a single one I don't like. I love the shop music. I love the lobby music. I love all the map music. I love the Teapots map, and I love the Face Lol's house song. Oh my word, those are so good. They are just really good. Again, the music is so good. The emotes music isn't that bad. I don't really use emotes all that much in the game. But, the emote music isn't really that bad. I just mainly am more focusing on, the overall, vital to gameplay music instead of the emotes, because the emotes are just kind of, there. So, yeah, in terms of, map themes and the shop and the lobby, love those themes. They are great. As well as the chase themes. The chase themes I find to be very enjoyable. I think the Stalker has one of my favorite chase themes. His base chase theme is probably one of my favorites. Father also has a good chase theme alongside some of his skins. I use the Whistler Current skin, and I think that one also has a good chase theme. So, yeah. They do a good job in terms of the music design. It's really good. And none of them really sound out of place. All the songs just manage to capture that same style and same vibe, which I, again, really like. I also think the maps themselves are not that bad. I noticed for a few of them that they are fairly large, which can result in, from a killer perspective, finding survivors might be a little difficult, but it's definitely not impossible. It's not, super hard to find them. You just gotta keep running around, and eventually you'll hear your chase theme building up, and you'll know you're near somebody, so it's not the worst thing in the world. It definitely feels like some of these maps, I was talking about the game earlier, in a VC, and it really did feel like some of these maps were made specifically when JDX was the only killer, because JDX has a teleport ability, so, he can automatically find survivors. It's not a difficult task for him. And it sometimes feels like these large maps were not prepared for the other killers who, don't have teleportation. Father does, but Stalker does not. But in the end, I still think the map designs are really nice, and they're really great. And, yeah, they're still enjoyable. It's just they're fairly big, but aside from that, the maps are still cool. I like them. They, again, have their own unique vibe. The music is always different. I love the fact that there's a fleeted facility map. I feel like that game does not get enough appreciation, but there being a fleeted facility map is just so cool. Now, this is one of the things that I believe is a bit of a con. The survivor and killer selections are definitely somewhat small. There's only 5 survivors and 3 killers. 2 of the survivors are sentinels, being Jacob and Dragon Dude. 2 are support. I would label Prototype as a support, so Brandon and Prototype. And then Guest I would label as a trapper, because, his cat is a little explosive, and it slows down the killer when they come in contact with it. And the 3 killers are all sort of agile in their own way. They all have agile playstyles, especially Stalker and JDX. Father also has a fairly agile playstyle. I feel like his is a little different, though, because he does have traps. And then he has the minions. So his playstyle is a little different. I don't really know what you'd label that under, but the killers all have like fairly agile types of gameplay. I feel like the lack of killers and survivors, especially the killer rotation, is definitely one of the things that puts a dent in the concurrent player rate. Because normally, at least a rotation of 4 or 5 would be a nice rotation, because, you know, like it just one extra killer already makes such a big difference, and I think it really helps with keeping people entertained with, you know, having a larger variety of killers for there to be picked for the next match. So I would say 4 or 5 is when I could be on the game for at least like an hour, like, and you know, that's good for me playing an asymmetrical game. Like, you know, playing it for an hour, that's like pretty good, having a rotation that big. And yeah, I play Dead by Daylight like at most for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, maybe sometimes more depending on how the day is going if I'm grinding. But like for Roblox asymmetrical horror games, an hour is good in my book. I think that's good. Another con I definitely would address is I do feel like updates take some time to come out. They do, you know, take quite a while to release. And, you know, the most recent update was a killer and a survivor, which was Father and Dragon Dude. I don't know if a new map was added during this. I was playing for quite a bit, and I don't think there was a new map. I know there was adjustments to pre-existing maps, but I don't know if there was one that was created that was new. I don't know if there was a new map. I don't think I missed it, because I was playing the game for quite a bit, and I'm not sure if I just wasn't getting it or, you know, what. But, yeah. I feel as with the update feeling so minuscule, it kind of causes people to get bored a little quickly, because, you know, they're just going to see the new killer and new survivor and be like, oh, okay, well, these guys are pretty fun. And they'll play for good 20 to 30 minutes, and then, you know, they might take a bit to return, which is what's also causing this low concurrent player rate. So I feel like the main two things that are kind of causing such a low player base is a small survivor and killer selection, as well as updates feeling like they take a bit to come out. But I still think that this game has quite a lot of pros. The game really never feels unfair on the survivor or killer side. It honestly feels fairly well balanced. I've never had a match where I feel like bullshit was the reason I died or why I lost. It honestly seems fair on both ends, and I've never really had any struggles on, like, either side. Like, I might lose, but I won't lose because, like, oh, I literally couldn't catch him, or, oh, he had a bullshit ability, so I died. It, like, just felt like I lost because I lost, and, you know, I can take it like a champ. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't feel unbalanced to any extent. The stun immunity as well, I'm really glad that that's implemented. And, you know, it never really feels like the stun immunity goes away too quickly or lasts too long. It just, again, feels perfectly balanced in the middle. One of the things I would say, though, you know, I'm kind of mixing cons and pros in this. I'm not really going in an order. The leaderboard UI is really small. That's like a very small thing. It's kind of a niche thing, but I would hope that it gets changed at some point, so the killer chance and the player points are a lot more visible, because it's very teeny tiny, and I can't really see what I'm looking at. So I would hope that the leaderboard would get changed at some point. But aside from that, I think the lobby is awesome. The lobby has a lot of areas to explore, and it is shockingly large for a lobby. I kept like walking around and seeing all these different little places, and I was just shocked at how big the lobby was. It like literally is like your own little scavenger hunt when you're waiting to get in the game. I also like that in one part of the lobby there is a waiting room that just has future killers that are coming to the game. I think that's really funny and also really clever. That is a very clever way to show upcoming content, and I like that. I think that's very funny. So whoever came up with the idea to add that waiting room, that was great. That was legit great. I love that. The shop as well is cool. I like the UI having separate character renders and then character portraits. You'll see the transparent little thing of the character when clicking on it, and then when you click on it, you'll see on the right side that there is a portrait, which has the character in a background. So, you know, having two little portraits, again, small little details, very admirable. I love that. The shopkeeper is also Noli, and I think Noli's design and his voice lines are pretty neat. I enjoy that, you know, instead of him always being viewed as this myth antagonist, he's just a chill shopkeeper that gives little bits of lore and remarks based on some of the things you click on. Like if you click on survivors or killers, he says things specifically for clicking those. So I, again, admire those details. That's very awesome. Overall, I think the gameplay of Pwned by 1400 is pretty fun. It just definitely does feel like, due to there being no objectives, it can get fairly dry. I also feel like this might be a major contribution to the low concurrent player rate. It kind of feels like a waiting simulator when it comes to encountering the killer, since there's nothing to do when you're out of chase. So I feel like that's another thing that kind of causes people to get bored quickly, because I think map exclusive objectives would really help make the game a lot more fun. It just kind of stinks when you're having to walk around and just wait to get in a chase or wait to help the person who's currently in chase. It just definitely feels like that's one of the things that is a major drawback. But in conclusion, I do think Pwned by 1400 is an underrated game, but I think it has a lot of potential. The state it's currently in just definitely feels like it's due to a lot of content not being in-game and also no objectives to do in the maps, which can, again, result in players getting bored fairly quickly. But I definitely see a very bright future for this game, like, genuinely. I think when the roster grows and objectives are implemented, the game is going to have such a positive change, and it's going to be so much more fun. Regardless of the updates taking some time to come out, I know that the next update for the game is going to be stellar, and it's going to be really fun. And I just, again, cannot wait to see what this game has to offer in the future. I'm also a contributor for this game. I am a skin designer, and it's, you know, very fun. The guys there are really chill. And I like this game a lot. I think it definitely has a very bright future, as I said. And I will hope that it can get a higher player base and, you know, get talked about more on Twitter, you know, get some hype. Because this game deserves it. It, like, really deserves it. I think that this game genuinely is underrated because of how little I see it get talked about. So, yeah, that's honestly my stance on Pwned by 1400. An underrated but awesome asymmetrical horror game.